Oscar-winning producer, Oscar-winning director of my Octopus teacher, founder of the Sea Change Project. Thank you very much. What an honor to have you with us right here. Pippa, I want to begin with you. If I can start, your film, My Octopus Teacher, has brought the attention of millions to the oceans. For the longest time, there has been a terrestrial bias. Forests on land have been seen as the most important ecosystem to mitigate climate change. But ocean is the key.
Yes, that's absolutely true. Thank you very much for having us. I think there is a misconception that places like the Amazon are our most important resource when it comes to balancing the kind of carbon dioxide oxygen balance on our planet. But actually, every second breath we take comes directly from our ocean. And our oceans are filled with different habitats and environments that are able to take carbon out of the atmosphere. And kelp forests are one of the least understood and most important resources we have when it comes to carbon emissions. I think what many people don't know is that 25% of Earth's coastline is covered by kelp forests. So there are these massive swathes of underwater forest all over our planet, as far south as Antarctica, and as far north as Alaska. And not only are these an incredible resource for carbon sequestration, kelp forests protect our coastlines from erosion, which is especially important in a time of rising sea levels. And they are also just these incredible kind of almost safety deposit banks for biodiversity. The amount of species and also the abundance of animals that you find in a kelp forest is utterly staggering. And it's an environment that actually has not been that well explored or documented in natural history storytelling around the world. So they are, just underwater wonderland, exquisitely beautiful places that we need to protect and still have so much to learn about. And what we do at the Sea Change Project, which is an organization that Craig and I are part of, is we are dedicated firstly to ensuring protection for the Great African Sea Forest, which is the place that the Octopus teacher lived and the place that we dive and explore every day. But we're expanding that story now to include kelp forests all over the world, because in the time of climate change, these habitats are the second most vulnerable marine habitat when it comes to climate change.
This is a question for Craig Foster. So what, according to you, is the greatest threat that we face?
That's a wonderful question. Thank you, Mr. Bachchan. In my mind, the greatest threat to this planet is the cooling of the human heart towards nature. And I think we've forgotten that this extraordinary biodiversity, this giant biological intelligence in the ocean and on the land, is literally keeping us alive from second to second. It's the immune system of the planet. And somehow in our busy lives and the strange times, we've disconnected from this. We think that other things are more important, but the foundation of every single thing we do, every step we take, every mouthful of food, every breath of air, is all thanks to this great Mother Nature that's keeping us alive and has kept us alive since the beginning of time. So it's really time now to acknowledge that and start seriously regenerating this great mother that really is our mother, that's birthed us and has looked after us for millennia.
Craig, hi, Pranoy here. It's just lovely to see you.
Wonderful to see you too, Pranoy.
You are getting a bit emotional.
Okay. So in the film you speak of nature healing, your cold water adaptation or adaptation, and also just being in the water. Can you speak to how nature is a powerful healer, physical and mental?
Yes. I mean, I think that, you know, we've been designed over 300,000 years to live in wild nature. It's our home. It's what every child that's born is expecting, to actually be born into wild nature, and we come into this, you know, strange world. So when we reconnect with her, it wakes something up, and we remember who we are. And especially from my side, the cold water, I find the cold, after long periods of going in every day, one's whole immune system starts to change and becomes much stronger. This little cold pressure every day builds that immune system in a way that's quite remarkable. And of course, then you start having relationships with nature again. This is something we've had again from the beginning of time, relationships with all sorts of animals, and that nurtures the mind, nurtures the soul. So it's a whole host of things. The feeling of being in a forest or in an underwater environment sends all sorts of feel-good chemicals to the brain. So one feels boosted by that, and months and weeks of doing that, your whole sense of self, sense of well-being changes. It's a tremendous difference, living closer to nature or living apart from her.
Pippa?
Just about recovered. I just felt very emotional because I was so happy that you won the Oscar. Just 3 or 4 of you. What did it mean to you? I feel actually you've changed my life more than anybody else.
Thank you, Pranay. To hear that from someone like you is obviously a huge boost for us. You know, it's hard to say what it means to you. I think when you pour your heart and soul into creating something that you very much care about, and a story that is deeply, deeply close to your own heart, it can be quite a scary thing to do. And you put it out into the world on a platform like Netflix, and suddenly it's accessible to, you know, hundreds of millions of people all around the world. And it resonates with them, and you receive hundreds of thousands of messages and emails from people all over the world saying that it's had a positive impact on them, and it's made them think differently about how human beings relate to nature, and it's made them think differently about animal sentience. And I think from a storyteller's point of view, that's kind of an absolute dream scenario. What more can you ask for? And
the fact that your dream has come true. You're going to save the kelp forests as a result of this. 7 years.
It's enormously powerful, and I think it's also, you know, I've been an environmental journalist for pretty much all of my adult life, and much of the stories that we tell as environmental journalists are not positive. They're about stories of, you know, destruction and despair. So to have the opportunity to tell a story about a positive relationship between people and nature, I think it goes beyond just kelp forests. And I think we live in a time where most young people that you speak to are afraid of the future. And to be able to tell a story about hope and about a different way of relating to the natural world, that was an enormous privilege for me.
Amitabh, I've spent so many hours swimming in the kelp forest with Craig and learned so much.
Oh, wonderful.
And
yes.
Craig has only been swimming since he was, I think, 6 days old. Roughly. And, you know, just, he's one with the ocean completely. 7 years of swimming and filming, and this happened.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Craig, let me ask you this question. You know, your reference to indigenous wisdoms, how important is this? And why do you always refer, Swati was also talking about it earlier in the day, of biodiversity being the immune system of the planet?
Yeah, we're just struggling, just so you know, we're struggling to hear you. So I only heard a part of that question, so I'll try to answer it.
Let me repeat the question
I
for
was
you.
very fortunate in a large part of my sort of 20s, 30s and early 40s to work in many African countries and in the famous Kalahari area. And I was fortunate enough to work with the San master trackers in this environment, and they taught me so much about tracking animals and details in nature that at first seemed almost impossible to understand. So I've learned so much from many different indigenous people in Africa through filmmaking and through studying, and then I've taken those ideas and tried to formulate an underwater tracking system in the kelp forest. And at first it was very difficult. In the first year I found almost nothing, and then suddenly all these tracks and these tiny signs started to emerge, and I was able to predict animals' behavior, and I could see what animals were doing from the previous night. And this, so this indigenous wisdom, almost like indigenous science, and is so critical, I think, for us as we move forward, because these people understand nature from a holistic sense. They understand animals in a very deep and resonant way, and I think when you combine indigenous wisdom and science together, it's very, very powerful way of finding a way forward with all these massive challenges we face in the world today. And I mean, you ask about the immune system of the planet. Biodiversity, well, that's all the animals and plants on this planet. That's the thing that's actually keeping us alive. If you take out even all the insects, this whole world will collapse, and we won't be able to breathe because the plants won't be able to pollinate. So if you take out this biodiversity, our whole living system collapses, and we will not survive as a species. I think that's what we've forgotten, and it's so critical that every child knows this, and that these animals are literally, and plants are keeping us alive from second to second.
I have when Amitabh Bachchan asked you something, you said, and Radhika wants you to repeat that and elaborate on it, when you said the cooling of the human heart. Could you just say that again and what you meant?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Pranay. So this thing about this cooling of the human heart towards nature, it's this terrifying thing where humans have been disconnected from the natural system, from our original mother, and our whole, our bodies, our minds, our spirits are shriveling in that cooling. And it's what's so critical is that we have this change of heart, that we start to love the natural system again, to love these animals, these creatures, these plants that keep us alive. It's a critical thing, and we've had this reciprocity with nature, deep reciprocity from the beginning of time. All indigenous cultures have this tremendous reciprocity, understanding, and love of nature. They would not be able to understand this idea of this cooling of the heart towards this wild mother. It would be unthinkable. So it's quite critical now that we start to, as I say, have a change of heart and move towards all our actions thinking of that great mother that's keeping us alive. What are we going to do? What are we going to do to regenerate her? How are we going to nurture her? How are we going to help her? Because she is our everything. Is every single thing we do, every political, every financial decision, every social decision is all sitting on that massive ecological foundation that is the biodiversity of this planet.
Very powerful message. Thank you so much, Craig and Pippa. You know, one thing that can help is more stories like the Octopus Teacher. A mix of emotions as well as science, which can maybe convince more people of that powerful message that you seek to deliver. Thank you very much.